Hi everybody, here's Thursday's maths lesson. On screen you can see today's starter task. So it says the numbers on 5 houses next to each other add up to 80. So that means you've got to add up the door numbers. What are those 5 numbers? Now think carefully. Remember, on a standard street it's kind of either, just an example, it might be 31, 33, 35, 37, 39. So you have all the odd numbers on one side of the street. And on the other side of the street you have even numbers. For example, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50. So bear that in mind. Now this took me a little while to get my head around at first, but once I had figured out a system, it was straightforward. But you've got to think carefully. Pause the video, see how you get on. Right, I'm going to reveal my thought process. So first of all, I wrote down my odds and even numbers. Then I decided that it had to be the even side of the street, because if I added up the 5 even numbers, well, I chose 2, 4, 6, 8, and 0 I chose as an even number because it would be, so a house is never numbered 0. 0 would be a multiple of 10. So that makes even, because all multiples of 10 are even. When I added up these 5 numbers, I got 20. So I know that it's got to be those ends in those 5 numbers, because if I added up the 5 odd numbers, I got 25, and then that would mean that I wouldn't be able to get 80. It would be 85 or 65 or something. That was my first clue. And then I thought, right, okay, I had a bit of trial and error and I was actually wasting time. But then I thought, I'm going to share the 80 between the 5 houses, and I got 16. 80 divided by 5 is 16. Now that told me that that was the middle number. So I put that in the middle and I just tried out if it worked. So that was my middle number, 16. Then I thought of the 2 houses before that and the 2 houses after. I added those numbers together and I got 80. Did you get the same as me? Share your work afterwards with me on Teams. Now we're carrying on with percentages today. Please remind me, what does percent mean? Okay, percent means parts per 100. 100 is the key number. And yesterday we were looking at examples where you had to estimate the percentage using your knowledge that the whole is equal to 100%. Okay, we looked at these examples. Can you just tell me what fraction is the same as 50%? Hoping that you said half. Another way of writing it down is 50 hundredths, because it means 50 out of 100. Okay, but you might have written half or said half. What about 10% and 90%? What fractions are they? Okay, 90% is the same as 90 hundredths, or you might have chosen 9 tenths. That's the simplified version. So percentages are always out of 100. So 90 out of 100. So look at this number line. So last week and earlier this week we were looking at fractions and decimal equivalents. Now on this number line you can see fraction and percentage equivalents. So it goes up in hundredths, 10 20ths, 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 30 hundredths. And underneath you can see the percentage that's equivalent. What's the same and what's different about this number line? Okay, so I can see that all the fractions denominators have 100 as the denominator. 100 is the same as the whole, so 100% is the whole, and 100 is in the denominator. I can see that the numerator is the same number that goes in front of the percentage sign. But the difference is percentages don't have denominators, they're just whole numbers, 80%. Right. Now, so look at the pattern. So It's pretty straightforward that 20 hundredths is the same as 20%, 40 hundredths is 40%. There's no real rule to remember. Point to where you think 31% would be. How would you write that as a fraction? Write that down for me. 31% equals what fraction? What about 68 hundredths? Point to where that would go on the number line and write down that as a percentage, please. Pause the video and do that for me. Okay, quite a straightforward task because percentages mean parts per hundred. So all I did was go for 1 after the 30, so that's 31%. And 31% looks like this, 31 hundredths, because it's always out of 100. 68 hundredths would be pointing to the 68% mark. And I shouldn't have written down that, I should have written down 68%. Fairly straightforward, okay, so far. I wonder now if you can complete this. I would like you to write it down. So you can't complete the 100 square because you haven't got that in front of you, but you can complete these parts, and maybe you can just point to where you think it would go on the number line. On your piece of paper, I'd like you to write down 80% equals what fraction? Okay, it's not tricky. Look at the diagram, look at the number line. Okay, this will help you, so you can always rewind to this point. Just spend a couple of minutes writing down percentage and equivalent fractions, please. Have a go. Right, I'm now going to reveal the answers on the screen, so mark your own work. So 80 hundredths is the same as 80%. 45 hundredths, 31 hundredths, and 9 hundredths. And I've coloured in on my 100 square how much the percent equates to, because it's always out of 100. And I've identified on my number lines as well. Okay, what about this time? So this time you need to find the information. So there's always one piece of information. So on this first question, it's the 100 square. So counting 10, so you've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44 blue squares have been shaded. So what would the fraction be? What would the percentage be? Here you've got 10 hundredths. What percentage is that? 45%. What fraction is that? 6%. So again, pause the video, complete this task, please. I'm going to reveal the answer so you can mark your own work. So 44% is the same as 44 hundredths, and so on. Now, it's always easy to write percentages out of 100. Later on, maybe tomorrow or the next day, we're going to look at equivalent fractions as well, okay? Because I know that some of you will be saying that 10 hundredths is the same as 1/10. And here we go already. So you can see that 1/10 is the same as 10%, 2/10 is the same as 20%, and so on. Can you remember what the decimal equivalents were for 1/10 and 2/10 and 3/10? What were they? Because I know you wrote big lists last week and you made some revision notes. Lots of you are writing down that 0.1 equals 1/10. Well, now you can add to your revision notes because now you know that 0.1 equals 1/10, which equals 10 hundredths, which equals 10%. So 8/10 is equal to 80%. What would the decimal equivalent be to 80%? 0.8. Wonder if you got that before I revealed it on screen. Might be a good idea to add this to your notes because this will help you later on in our future sessions because we will be working out percentages of amounts. So We talked about tenths before, so 0.3 equals 3 tenths, which equals 30%. If you go in between 30 and 40%, you get 35%. The equivalent fraction is 35 hundredths, and the decimal is 0.35. If we think about money, that's 30p, that's 40p. So halfway between 30 and 40p is 35p, so that makes complete sense. You write this one down. I would like you to write down the percentage 85%. I want you to write down 85% equals what fraction, what decimal. Pause the video and do that. So 85% equals 85 hundredths, which equals 0.85. Let's do one more. Write down 11%. Okay, I want to know what fraction equals 11% and what's the decimal. Pause the video and have a go. 11% equals 11 hundredths, which equals 0.11. Quite straightforward so far. This is the final task for today, is to fill in this question. So I would like you to write down 80% equals how many hundredths, 45% equals how many hundredths. This time, I want the decimals as well. I'm not sure if we've done these earlier, you might just need to add the decimals next to them. So 31% equals how many hundredths, which equals what decimal. Pause the video, have a go. Now you can mark your work. 80%, which equals 80 hundredths, 0.8. You could also put 0.80. We don't need to write the 0 though, because it doesn't mean anything, but that would be marked correct. I think the other two to find easy. I'm hoping that 0.09, I'm hoping you wrote that. If you wrote 0.9, that would mean 90%. So be careful with your place value. Remember the columns, the ones column, the tenths column, and the hundredths column. That's important. Well done for joining in. Share your work on Teams with me, and tomorrow, what we'll be doing tomorrow, let's have a little look what I've planned. We'll be doing some more practicing of our equivalents, and then, oh yes, we'll be doing some tricky questions like these. So make sure you come back.